Imagine stepping onto the front lines, right? You're bracing for the deafening crack of artillery fire, but instead the sky's just raining down freshly baked baguettes and like tacos.
It is entirely surreal.
Exactly. So, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking you on a tactical analysis of the really bizarre battle logs from the Global Culinary Crusade of the Country Balls, Part 4.
Which, for anyone who maybe isn't familiar, Country Balls is this internet webcomic universe where nations are literal spherical blobs,
Mm-hmm.
and they act out these global geopolitics through, well, deeply absurd satirical scenarios.
Yeah, and our mission today is to figure out exactly how this specific timeline devolves from standard warfare into, weaponized local cuisine.
Right, because it actually starts off completely normal, which is the funny part. You look at the opening conflict down in South America's of Brazil, defeating Argentina and Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
It sets this really grounded baseline.
Oh, totally.
I mean, we see conventional guns, heavy armor, just standard military doctrine all around.
Yeah, it totally lures you into this false sense of security. You're expecting a standard war room scenario until the timeline abruptly shifts to Europe for the no electricity war.
Oh man, the Paris grid failure.
Right, so the power goes out in Paris, and without electricity, France's modern military infrastructure is basically just useless.
Completely dead in the water.
Exactly. But instead of surrendering, they literally load up their tanks with baguettes. Like they fire them as kinetic projectiles. It is literally like a middle school food fight, but scaled up and funded by the military-industrial complex.
I love that analogy. And the wild thing is, once France proved that weaponized carbohydrates could bypass modern infrastructure failures, it triggered a massive tactical shift globally.
It really did.
Like, the UK saw the success in Paris and immediately stole the baguette strategy so they could win the London bread war against Austria.
Okay, but mechanically, I just have to stop and ask how this actually works.
It requires some suspension of disbelief, for sure.
I mean, I'm looking at the logs from Monterrey, right? Mexico defeats Guatemala's standard weapons using just tacos. Or Rome, where Italy is fending off heavily armored German and Spanish tanks by hurling pizzas at them.
Right, the aerodynamic pizzas.
Yeah. So does a perfectly aimed taco actually inflict structural damage? Like, is the pizza grease clogging up the tank treads, or is it purely just the psychological shock of seeing street food flying at your windshield?
Well, you have to remember that in the Country Balls universe, physics bend entirely to cultural stereotypes. So the cuisine doesn't just act as a projectile, it actually takes on the properties of military-grade ordnance.
Wait, really? So it's not just a distraction?
No, not at all. Like, the spicy salsa on a Mexican taco literally acts as a corrosive acid against Guatemalan armor, and a barrage of dense, crusty baguettes that actually delivers the blunt force trauma of a real artillery shell.
That is so absurd, but kind of brilliant.
It is. Plus, you have to factor in the massive cognitive dissonance. A traditional military is trained to counter ballistics. You know, when German tank divisions encounter aerodynamic pizzas, their standard tactical doctrines just completely collapse.
So the food weapons actually exploit the rigidity of conventional military training.
Exactly.
That makes the escalation even wilder because the timeline jumps from individual nations tossing their national dishes to entire regional blocs forming, like culinary
The
alliances.
shawarma skirmish is the best example of that.
Yeah, let's look at the shawarma skirmish in Beirut. Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Palestine form this massive unified coalition specifically around shawarma to fight off Egypt and Sudan.
And those two are still clinging to regular tanks and swords, right?
Right. It's just such a crazy clash of eras and tactics.
Well, that skirmish really reveals the true strategic power of this universe. I mean, food becomes a profound cultural unifier.
Yeah, it's more than just a funny gimmick.
Exactly. That coalition isn't just sharing a geographic border, they are integrating their entire command structures through a shared culinary heritage. They basically weaponize their collective identity.
Which proves way more effective than the conventional steel of their opponents.
So much more effective.
Look.
But, just as you get really invested in the strategic brilliance of a shawarma coalition, the universe kind of snaps right back to grim reality.
Yeah, the final conflict is a huge tonal shift. It's the North American clash in Los Angeles, America versus Canada.
And there is absolutely zero weaponized cuisine in that one.
Nothing. No tactical hot dogs,
Yeah.
no weaponized maple syrup. America just wins using strictly conventional guns, tanks, and bombs.
It is a really stark brutal pivot. I mean, after watching regional identities flourish through all this improvised creative food warfare, the North American theater just reverts entirely to standardized, humorless destruction.
Yeah, the cultural creativity is completely stripped away. We're just left with standard industrial
It's
warfare.
kind of a depressing end, honestly.
It really is. I mean, we go from the standard tanks of São Paulo, soar through the baguette bombings of Paris, and the corrosive taco tactics of Mexico, build a culturally unified shawarma coalition in Beirut, only to end up right back at the gray reality of standard warfare in LA.
It's a full circle journey. But when you look at the tactical implications of this universe as a whole, it really flips global defense strategy entirely on its head.
Oh, for sure. Because if a nation's military supremacy relies entirely on weaponizing its signature dish, their greatest vulnerability isn't an arms embargo anymore.
No, not at all.
It's an ingredient shortage. Like a localized wheat drought or a bad tomato harvest suddenly becomes a catastrophic national security threat.
That is such a fascinating point to end on.
Yeah, so the next time you walk past your local bakery, just remember in another universe, you might be looking at a highly classified munitions depot.